not only is it SOCOM 3, but it's SOCOM Combined Assault, which was the sequel to that game. And so I think, I don't know if we're talking like, I don't know if it's 5 hours of music or something like this.
Wow.
I don't even want to, it could be 5 hours plus between the two of them.
Between the two.
So the best part is, when you're making a soundtrack, you're always like, I want to find my best bits. And if it's a feature-length film, and you want to put on like 45 minutes of score, well, that's like almost everything, for some things. Some things it might not be depending on the nature of it. But for a game score, there's so much music because the movie might be an hour and a half, but the playing time of a game might be like 18 hours.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to have a lot more music because besides the fact that it's more time spent, the timeline isn't fixed. So if you're a slow gamer, the music has to be adaptable to both, the quick gamers and the slower gamers. So, like, for example, if you're in a battle, some people are really good. You can't have the music like start ramping up and then have a really long intro for a long battle. If somebody's really good, and then it ends.
Right.
So it's a tough line to walk where you need to be accommodating to different player styles. But,
it's interesting. It's interesting you say that because I never really thought of it that way. But you're right, especially with the games I play. My brother pretty much can get through a game in less than a day, but it's just the mere fact that you got to score this music to those who had different strengths at gameplay. And, as you just said, there's the ones that will take a long time to get to the next level or to get to even the end of the game. And you have those that can get through a level in less than 2 minutes, if not, like, I know that's an exaggeration.
No,
but
I understand.
But you get the idea. And it's just, I never really thought about how that process works.
Well, you end up writing a lot of music, which I would call, like, in case. And I'll give you an example of that. Like, I think in SOCOM 3, I think there were like, 20 or 50, I forget what the number was, maybe 30, 5-second mood pieces, which were, like, if you just stood still in the game, gradually there'd be like some tension pieces that come in just to set the mood.
Right. Okay.
But you needed them all based on what part of the game you're in, what country you're in, what's the environment like. So they were all custom to the area, so they wouldn't be repetitive, but they all need to be related to the thematic material. So that was a challenge to be like, how interesting and tense can you be? Like, oh, you have to do it in 5 seconds, and to make it. So there's lots of that music which is written like just in case. You're just kind of like, for example, if you're doing a stealth mission and you're waiting for a guard to pass and you have to crouch in the grass, well, then there's tension pieces that play just as you're waiting. So, in addition to things that are like, when an intro to a level, an AOP, an area of play, where then there might be a big cinematic, and that's the big piece that introduces you to the, next environment you're going to be in. And then if you complete a mission, then there's that. If you fail that mission, and there's menu music, there's all these different pieces that have to be generated so that no matter where you are in the game, if you're playing or just, writing your name, there's music.
Right. And I'm sure that had to take a long time for that.
Well, there was, it's funny, there was, and I wrote this in the liner notes, there was so much music that to actually look at it in one go, we printed out, all the cue sheet on legal pages, because they were landscape, and, or maybe it was just landscape, 8.5 by 11, and then we put them on corkboards, which I put on easels in my office. And if it was 2 across of 8.5 by 11, like 4 down, and at 10-point font, there were 3 easels.
Oh gosh.
For SOCOM 3.
For SOCOM 3.
And then I remember there was I think there's the handheld extension of that, which had another easel. and then like you'd write, like one of the lines might be a 3-minute action piece. So then you'd work like all day on this thing and then like check a small box, a 10-point font on that. That was your day.
Wow.
So it was, and then you're just looking at this thing going like, oh my God, it's just so much music. And then every day, like anything else to do, you prepare, execute, and then, eventually after months of time, you get to the end of it.
You stare at it
it's
first.
Crazy. Like, Pushing Daisies had 18 hours of score.
18 hours?
18 hours for 22 episodes, sure. 40, yeah, because it was 42 or 44 minutes an episode.
Right.
And then times 18 episodes, 22 episodes, that's about 18 hours.
Okay, over the course of over a 22 episode period. Okay, I was
Yeah.
like, at first I was like thinking 18 hours for one show.
Yeah.
I was like,
oh no, yeah, I meant for
dude.
for the entire show, but yeah, for like 42 or 44 minutes a week.
Yeah.
And then times 18 or 22, that's 18 hours. So that's one TV show compared, and then SOCOM would be 3 hours for just, I think maybe just that game or something like that. I forget.
Alone.
But it's ended up being a lot of music, a lot of notes, and lots of research that goes into it because, if I remember correctly, and remember this is almost 10 years ago, I know there was one, it was Poland, and then there was some Middle Eastern country, and then I think a subcontinent country. And each one had to be researched for the style of music, instrumentation, so that you could, properly write for these things and keep everything specific, so that it's an immersive experience for the player.
Right.
And it's there's an interesting thing because like when I was writing music for Poland, and you're like, okay, well, what is Polish music? 'Cause
what is that?
what
that's
is Polish
exactly
that's not Russian? And it's tough because the country doesn't have the rich classical music history that lots of other countries, like European countries, have.
Right.
So it was, but I did have a friend who introduced me to the Dvorak Slavonic dances, and I found some voicings that felt Polish that Dvorak did that were not Russian, and so that we embraced that as the sound of the Polish area.
That just sounds like a fun score I need to listen to.
Well, it was
pretty much
amazing to, yeah. And I listened back to it for the first time, and it's been a long time, and I was like, wow, some of this actually is pretty good.
Yeah, like it could be used now, pretty much.
I was like, wow, that's some good writing, and it's like the players were amazing. We did it at London with all the best players, available, and
okay.
So there was really no. If anything, if it didn't work out, it was definitely my fault. I could tell you that.
At least you have that under your belt. If this doesn't work out, then it's all on me.
Yeah, I'm just like, because I'm like, you can't say, hey, it's the players, it's the hall, it's the orchestration. I'm like, nope, none of that, just me.
Nope, that was all me.
So, but it still does sound very impressive, and and Dennis Sands mixed that, as well. So it was terribly exciting, and I love going to London for the Indian food. But that aside, it was just a wonderful experience. I remember I brought my I flew my parents out, so they come like, I know you don't really understand what I do for a living, so if you want to see what this is like. Which is also funny because then I'm like, well, where are my parents? Like, they went sightseeing. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
So sounds like my mom. It really does, because it's just like my mom. It's the same way. She has no idea what the hell I do, and I try to. I was like, my coworkers are going like, you should have her go to California when you go to California for all these events and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I've asked her. She doesn't want to get on the plane. So
yeah, okay, and there's not, right.
Yeah, she doesn't want to get on the plane. So, it's just like, well, you're missing out. And then I come home, and then she's like, well, what did you do? And then I tell her what I do, and she's like, yeah, let's talk about something else, because she really doesn't understand. So I totally get it.
No, they couldn't be more foreign. I mean, like, my dad's a retired fireman. I'm like, how much do you think he understands about the classical music writing process?
At least, I mean, I would have just thought that they just didn't know what the notes were on the sheets of paper.
No, I mean, I couldn't have. I mean, if I picked astrobiology, it would have been equally as far.
So there was just no luck there at all, whatever you were going to do.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. Anything aside from saving people out of burning buildings, it was going to be foreign.
Yeah. My mom's just like, why don't you be a doctor or a pharmacist? I think that's really what she wants, and here I am doing this instead. And she's like, what is it you do?
Hey man, I hear that. My dad wanted a dentist. My mom wanted a plastic surgeon. So
see,
you know, I did pre-med at NYU for my undergrad, and I was like, yeah, I can't do this. This is not fun.
Yeah, like,
which is funny because actually I read a lot of science books now to
pass the time.
But I do enjoy it, but to do it as a living, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to stick to this music thing. This is a little bit more for me.
I have more fun doing what I do, and I just was like, the medical field, yeah, no thanks, I'm sorry. I just don't know what it is with parents that want us to be doctors.
Yeah, it's like, I just want to go be a doctor. My son's a doctor, you know, and it's like, I don't know if you heard, that was a great joke on the West Wing where it's like, you know, people are at the inauguration, and, you know, the mother turns, he's like, you see my son with his hand on the Bible? His brother's a doctor.
I just don't get it. I don't think I'll ever understand it, but that's just what our moms want. I guess we can't change that.
No, you're not.
No, I gave up trying.
Yeah, well, the good news, I think for me, I lucked out in that I'm pretty useless in most other situations. So I'm glad the music thing worked out because I was a really bad waiter.
Oh, yeah, you did that, huh? You did that to get into
Yeah, well, you know, it's crazy. I was a busboy. I was actually a very good busboy in New York. I worked at a restaurant called Gramercy Tavern. And it was great because I made a lot of money for a college kid because it was it's an amazing restaurant.
Tips. You're working with tips, so.
Yeah, no, it was a very expensive restaurant. And the executive chef at the time turned out to be, I ended up running into him later on in life because he ended up on TV.
Oh.
Yeah, he's the host of Top Chef.
Oh, really? Get out.
Yeah, so Tom Colicchio was the executive chef when I was a busboy.
Mm-hmm.
So when I won my Emmy for pushing Daises, and then we're all in the back waiting online to take photos afterwards, and I see a friend of mine from college. I'm like, Kevin, what are you doing here? Congratulations. He's like, I edit Top Chef. I'm like, I used to work for that guy. I was a busboy, and this is my friend from college just won an editing Emmy for Top Chef. And yeah, we were both in college, and we just how that kind of 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon thing would work, was just unbelievable at that moment.
That's pretty cool. This was you were out back in Queens still, or this was in?
No, this is when I was when I was backstage at the Emmys, and I ran into because he.
No. When you were in the restaurant.
Oh no, that was when I was when I was at NYU in Manhattan.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I figured the Emmys were in Los Angeles.
Yeah, no, it's funny because actually I went to a dinner at Kraft LA, and I ended up that Tom hosted, and I talked to him after. I was like, hey, I ran into his wife, in New York a few years back, and I'm like, hey, Val, if you remember me, I used to bus tables there. We had a good laugh about this stuff because we both ended up in the TV business, considering that neither of us started with it,
with it, and
any kind of relation to that industry.
And now here you are. Now you can't get away from it.
It's funny. I'm like, I went in Emmy. I'm like, of course, my boss, my chef. I'm like, you too crazy.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I'm like, so you roll with it and have a good laugh because it's just a funny little world it is.
It's just like, yeah, I guess I am. And speaking of crazy, I need to know, since I know a lot of composers do these things, I needed to know if you've ever been to a Comic-Con. I know you did a WonderCon. I know you did a WonderCon.
Sure, I've spoken at Comic-Con. Sure.
How was that? I still have not had the pleasure of experiencing one of those yet.
It's an intense experience, I got to tell you. But what's amazing about it is the people who are fans are real fans. These are not day tripping fans. These are serious fans.
I love how you just said that. That was epic right there, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just tell you, I just love the fact that you just basically called out fans who do day trip. And I say this about people, and they get mad, and I'm just like, but you do. You're wishy-washy. So
yeah, sure. Sure, fair weather fans. It happens, of course. I'm like, trust me. Like, I'm a Mets fan. What do you want to talk about? Fair weather fans.
Oh.
I went to Game 7 of the '86 World Series.
That's called the Eagle